Turns out there were three pastors who were friends, and they got together one day and decided they'd take the day off and go fishing. So they were out in a boat together, and they got to visiting, and one of them says, you know, people come to us all the time with problems and issues, and they need counseling and help, and which is part of our jobs, but we don't have anybody to go to. How about we agree to go to each other? You know, we can help each other out in that regard. And, well, that's a good idea. So one of the pastors says, well, I'll start. He said, we have wine for communion, and we keep it in the office. And it started out, I'd have a glass with my lunch, and then it got to where I'd have some with breakfast and lunch. And it got to where it's just getting out of hand. You know, I'm just not sure what to do about that. The second one went, and he said, well, the secretary that I've had for years, it got to where we'd go to lunch together, and then we were spending way too much time together, and that's why she had to leave. And the third one said, well, you know, maybe I should have gone first. He said, my problem is gossip, and I just can't wait to get back to shore. This is a little different. This actually has a title, Tame the Wild Beast. And Matthew 15:18, King James Version. But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. So according to Yeshua, the mouth only reveals what we learn about in the heart. We should reflect on how we speak to one another. Are we uplifting and encouraging, or are we harsh and angry? What does this reveal about our hearts? Rather than the mouth, James refers to the tongue. James chapter 3, verses 2 to 10. For we all stumble in many ways. If someone does not stumble in speech, he is a perfect man, able to bridle the whole body as well. And if we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we guide their whole body as well. See also the ships. Though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder, wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. See how so small a fire sets ablaze to so great a forest. And the tongue is a fire. The tongue is a world of evil, placed amongst our body parts. It pollutes the whole body and sets on fire the course of life, and is set on fire by Gehenna. For every species of beasts and birds, reptiles and sea creatures is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue, hence the title, Tame the Wild Beast. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless Adonai and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the image of God. With the same mouth comes blessing and cursing. My brothers and sisters, these things should not be. James related the tongue with what we say and how we speak. How do we speak to one another? Are we gentle or harsh? Are we blessing and cursing with the same mouth? Some of us have developed lifelong habits that are difficult to break. We may have even inherited some of our bad habits. But we really have to be more conscious about how we come across when we speak. James continued in verses 13 to 18. Who among you is wise and understanding? By his good conduct let him show his deeds in the gentleness of wisdom. So if we are gentle when speaking with one another, we are demonstrating wisdom. What then are we demonstrating if we are not gentle when speaking with one another? But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast and lie against the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. As Yeshua said in Matthew 15, the mouth or tongue is only revealing what is in our hearts. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder in every evil practice. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial, not hypocritical. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. When we speak harshly with one another, we are not demonstrating wisdom, mercy, or righteousness. I am sure most of us who speak harshly are not even aware of it. It is a lifelong habit that may have been inherited from parents or grandparents. But how many people have left Hashem because some people appear not to get along? If the way we speak with one another is driving people away, it is not of God. As James said, the tongue can be a destructive beast. What is the result of our speaking harshly? Our intent may be to make a point or to persuade someone. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1 tells us the result is quite the opposite of the intent. Matthew 12:36-37. But I tell you, on the day of judgment, men will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, by your words you will be condemned. Our words hold great accountability. We will be judged for the words we speak. Therefore, we should choose them wisely. Speak only what is true, necessary, and uplifting. Our unwise words will not only cause harm to others, but also harm to ourselves. In Ephesians chapter 4, Shaul is speaking about some things in our life that have to change due to our new lives in Messiah. To 32. Let no harmful word come out of your mouth, but only what is beneficial for building up others according to the need, so that it gives grace to those who hear it. Do not grieve the Ruach HaKodesh of God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Note, grieving the Holy Spirit follows a verse warning against harmful words from our mouths. Getting rid of all bitterness and rage and anger and quarreling and slander, along with all malice. Instead, be kind to one another, compassionate, forgiving each other, just as God in Messiah also forgave you. As a side note, I sometimes fall short of this as well. Let us all agree to work together on this and help each other out when we see someone falling short. Along with the other things mentioned in Ephesians chapter 4, this is difficult, but if we are careful, we can get better. Galatians 5:24-25 lets us know we have help, and we need it. Galatians 5:24-25. Now those who belong to Messiah have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live by the Ruach, let us also walk by the Ruach, or the Spirit. We cannot do this on our own, nor are we asked to. We have the help of the Holy Spirit if we will accept it. It will take time and patience, but God has promised to help us improve. Let us conclude this section with Proverbs 18:2. A fool finds no delight in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. The story about the three pastors I told in the beginning is a funny way to illustrate a related and not so funny problem. Leviticus 19 is one of the chapters in the Parashah Kedoshim, or Holy Ones. The Parashah is a list of things we will do or not do if we are truly holy. Some of these items are included in Paul's fruits of the Spirit. We are not going to just decide we are holy and begin doing these things. We should be doing these things if we are indwelt by the Holy Spirit. We can't do it on our own. Leviticus 19:16. You are not to go up and down as a talebearer among your people. You are not to endanger the life of your neighbor. I am Adonai. The verse ties gossiping together with endangering someone's life. Yes, it is that serious. In a skit, they frequently ran on hee-haw, and if you remember that program, you're showing your age. Minnie Pearl had a line, "We won't go around repeating gossip, so you'd better be sure and listen close the first time." Why do we gossip? Proverbs 18:8 tells us, "The words of the gossip are tasty morsels, going down into one's innermost being." We gossip for the same reason we do other things. We have a sinful nature. When we gossip, we have tasty morsels someone else wants to hear. We become important. We can always frame it in a way that sounds righteous. I heard about a problem that affects our synagogue. Billy Bob told me a good friend of his told him, and on we go. Third or fourth hand information, and we want to hear all about it. What about a prayer request? Is it just an excuse to gossip? Unfortunately, sometimes. I have a prayer request. I called Sally to ask why she and George had not been coming to Lev Hashem. Hope nobody here is named Sally and George. When Sally answered the phone, her speech was slurred. She must have been drinking. I confronted her and she said she was sleeping when the phone call woke her up. They always try to cover it up. I'm sure Sally's drinking has something to do with George running around on her. On my way home, most evenings I drive up 3rd Street. George's car is usually parked either at the sleazy bar or the cheap hotel next to it. Please pray for George and Sally. They definitely need it. Wow, that was a lot of gossip. But we're only trying to help. It's for a good cause. We can always justify it. After all, I'm only asking everyone to pray for this couple. How does hearing that change your opinion of George and Sally? Not very uplifting, I can assure you. Here's the real story. Sally had been sick, and that is causing her to sleep a lot. She planned on sharing that with us at some point, but George and Sally are somewhat private people. George had to take a second job to help pay doctor bills. Parking is tight on 3rd Street, so George parks his car wherever he can find a space. But that's not as interesting as the other story that I just made up. What if the rumor I started gets back to George and Sally? Would the part about George running around break up their marriage? This is serious stuff. their relationship with us would definitely be damaged. Of course, we would never make a mistake like that. I just made the whole thing up anyway. Doesn't sound that bad, does it? Are there any problems with gossip? Proverbs has a lot to say on the subject. Proverbs 20:19, a talebearer goes about revealing secrets, so do not associate with a babbler. So gossip betrays confidences. Proverbs 16:27 and 28, a wicked scoundrel digs up evil, and on his lips is a scorching fire. A perverse person sows strife, and a gossip separates close friends. So gossip dredges up evil. Gossip sows conflict. Gossip separates close friends. The words of a gossip are tasty morsels, going down into one's innermost being. Gossip stains our souls by going down to our innermost parts. You will probably remember Sally's drinking and George's running around much longer than you will remember the truth. Without wood, a fire goes out. Without gossip, quarrels cease. Gossip stirs up conflict. Can anyone show me biblically where any of these things are desirable? 2 Corinthians 12:20, this is the complete Jewish Bible. For I am afraid of coming and finding you not the way I want you to be, but also of not being found the way you want me to be. I'm afraid of finding quarreling, jealousy, anger and rivalry, slander and gossip, arrogance and disorder. And all of that is in a fellowship founded by Rabbi Shaul. When you hear something, ask the 5 questions. Does it build up? Are we speaking about others the way we would like to be spoken about? Does it honor? Does it help? Would we say it in front of that person? These questions will help identify gossip as well as the harsh speech we discussed in the first section. Gossip can usually be curtailed by deflecting the conversation. I recall a meeting some time ago. I only remember a couple of the people there, but there were several. The conversation turned to a decision someone had made. The decision was an established fact. So far, so good. Then somebody started questioning why this particular decision had been made. Someone else offered some speculation. Larry, and keep him in prayer, please, who had been quiet, as I recall, spoke up. He said, we're dangerously close to gossip and we need to talk about something else. Due to Larry's recognizing a problem and speaking up, the potential gossip was stopped. All it took was for Larry to remind us we were headed down a dangerous path. If someone begins to spew gossip, deflecting the conversation is a good tactic. Speaking harshly to one another and gossiping are problems that go way back. Paul dealt with them. 1 Timothy 5:13 speaks of the people with too much time on their hands. A New American Standard Bible. At the same time, they also learn to be idle as they go around from house to house. And not merely idle, but also they become gossips and busybodies, talking about things not proper to mention. Romans 1:28-32 ties gossiping in with a long list of evil traits worthy of death. New American Standard again. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a depraved mind to do those things that are not proper. People having been filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unfeeling, and unmerciful. Sound like some of our politicians. And although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. Wow, by lumping gossip in with all that other stuff, Sheol is a bit rough. Maybe we should just go back to James and wrap this up. Know this, my dear brothers and sisters, let every person be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. For human anger does not produce the righteousness of God. I would think this refers to our habit of saying what is on our minds at the moment. We often speak without having all the facts. We see or hear something and we assume somebody is messed up, and that someone ought to be severely chastised. And who better to do that than me? Besides, I can let everybody know how badly this person messed up. We should be more careful before we lash out. We're all mishpachah, or family.
Right.
We will not always agree, but we should be able to discuss our differences in a pleasant and confidential manner.
Yeah. Yes.
John 13, 34 and 35, New American Standard. Yeshua is speaking. I'm giving you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. What better way to show love to one another than to be more careful about how we speak to one another and what we say about one another? David may have dealt with some of the same issues in his life. These prayers are personal. Psalm 141, the Psalm of David, verse 3. Set a guard, Adonai, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Psalm 19, a Psalm of David, verse 15. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Psalm 35, a Psalm of David, verse 28. Then my tongue will declare aloud your justice and your praises all day. Now, is that not what we should be doing? We all have a lot of work to do. With the help of the Ruach HaKodesh, or Holy Spirit, we can get there.
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.